Hi there, and welcome to the 267 podcast. I'm here with Mike, the director of 267.
Yeah!
And I'm here, the intern of 267.
Yeah!
And here, just to add to the mix, we've got Katherine, also an employee of 267. And last, but definitely not least, we have Alex Stoney, here for work experience and also to bring joy to our lives.
Yes, I'm your resident vlogger.
Yeah, resident millennial.
I'm intrigued by the word vlogger.
Video blog.
No, I know what it means. Intrigued, but it's a funny. Can we just, whatever you're doing, can you just make up a word that's not an actual word
you know
for
what
what
is
you
in the
do?
dictionary? Hot mess. Hot mess.
Well, thanks for that fun fact.
That's gonna make Ben's editing of the podcast much easier.
Yeah, great. So, we're going to ask Katherine the question that we ask all our guests. Can you please describe Mike in 3 words? And Mike, can you describe Katherine in 3 words?
No, I can't. That's just too many words to describe Katherine. Katherine is...
Mike is...
Oh, hang on.
I like how on the last one we recorded it was... oh no, you go first.
Energetic.
You go first.
Energetic. Passionate.
Ooh.
And fashionable.
I
You're
would
obsessed
say
with clothes,
Mike unique, inspiring,
Oh, bless you.
and edgy.
Edgy. I'll take edgy because it's going to go with stylish and... What was the other one you called me, Alex?
Intelligent.
Yeah.
That makes you sound like a vlogger.
All those words?
Yeah.
Maybe you're a
So in
vlogger.
48 years, I've never been called any of those words.
No.
So
This is the main use of
If
the
I die
podcast.
tomorrow, I'm a happy man.
You've just got an ego boost from this. That's why we do this.
Eco boost.
Ego.
Oh, ego. Sorry, I'm being a bit...
You're not a vegetarian.
Yeah.
Oh, don't talk about the vegetarian stuff.
Great. Anyway, let's get going before we start a war on vegetarians.
One
That
in the
would
room.
be fun.
Today we're going to chat a bit with Katherine about
Yeah.
her new conference that we've mentioned before, called the Refueled Conference. Do you want to just quickly tell us what it is before we start chatting about it?
So Refueled is a day in March about inspiring young leaders and about encouraging them to lead in the church.
What day?
It's Saturday the 30th of March, 2019, and it runs from 9 a.m. till 7:30.
And where can people book on?
They can book on Eventbrite, which Ben will link
Yep,
somewhere in the podcast.
yep. I don't know where this is getting uploaded, but it will be linked.
Or you can just go refueled.eventbrite.com.
Yeah,
.co.uk.
all that. And yeah, it would be great to know if you're coming.
Great.
And I bet it's expensive because you've got loads of people, loads of food.
No, it's absolutely free, which is lit.
Wow, what a natural conversation we're having.
And it's happening at St George's School in Harpenden.
Great. Thanks. Now we've done the plugging, we can get to the real conversation, which is, why are you running it? Well, why did you have the idea to run it? And
So-
what did you say to Mike to get him to let you run it?
That's an excellent question.
So I first thought this idea about last year when I was asked to preach at Fuel. It was my first time preaching and I had no idea what to do. And I looked on the internet and there was nothing really out there for young people on preaching. So first of all I was like, how long do I make the preach? You know, where do I find this information? How much of the Bible do I use? Just all these questions that no one had really ever answered. So the basis of the conference kind of started from that, and then I think I set up a meeting with you and we had burgers, and I basically just said a lot of the idea, and then we kind of just spun it from there. And we both agreed that it was quite worthy of our ministry.
And why are you excited about it? Because you are really excited
I
about
am
it.
really
But why?
excited because we've involved a lot of people from our 267 community, and it's just, we've picked loads of passionate people who are so passionate about young people, and you can just hear it from them, and I'm just very excited for their talks, and it's going to be so good. It's going to be a great day.
Cool. I'm going to flip this question to Mike, which is, why, when Katherine came to you with the idea, did you go, cool, I've got to be on board with this one, have some money?
Yeah. I think there's a lot of things that Katherine says and you just have to do. I think generally in life.
So fear is the main reason.
Yeah, fear was my driving goal. It's one of those things that we set it up. So I said, Katherine, if you're going to work for us as an events coordinator, you've got to run something from conception to delivery. So something that we currently don't do. This was not what I thought she might do. So I was really chuffed that it was something completely different that I wasn't even really thinking about. But it really fitted with what we love talking about in 2-7, what we're about, which is actually, and Alex mentioned it in the other podcast, was actually the church isn't the adults and then the youth group. The church is God's church, the whole family, every age, every gamut. And I think one of the sort of struggles that I've had of late is seeing so many churches where it's all been compartmentalised. So you have a kids group, you have a creche, and we're not together enough as a whole church. And so when she said, actually, let's get a bunch of people together that can release gifts, like again we talked to Alex, so that they can serve the church as young leaders. And as also Alex said, which is why this works so well, it isn't just about the visual things. Catherine's had a whole bunch of seminars set up for this event where you're releasing people not to be visual leaders, as in worship leaders and preachers, but to the people who choose to go first. I think a real leadership skill is to say, I'm going to go first, I'm going to do this because it's right to do it. And then if we can start allowing those young people to be free to do that in our churches, not just on Sunday morning, but in our churches, you know, how great. I spoke to someone yesterday who's taken 2 people to a conference who are 16 and 17, and one of them's on the PCC and one of them's a worship leader. And I thought it's great to take them away on a conference because they're going to come back and they can have an opportunity to serve. I wonder whether that's quite a rare thing though. And so, it's going to be. I can't wait. I really hope people sort of buy into it as much as we are, because I think it could really significantly change the face of how churches particularly do Sunday active worships, but also include people, you know.
And we're not only kind of getting in with the young people with the day, but also Mike's going to do some work with the church leaders and letting them break down the barriers and almost just pushing them into the church and letting them do stuff. Because I think there is an issue with our church leaders being like, oh, youth, scary.
As Alex
as Alex said, and I think that needs to be worked on, because otherwise our young people have no hope.
Yeah, I think
break it down.
The main moral we're learning from this is, if you need to know why this is a good idea, go back and listen to the podcast with Alex on.
Yeah.
Because we're just constantly quoting you now.
Yeah.
And not wanting to sort of just bash adults. I think obviously as an adult, one of the things that I think has to happen as well is need to figure out how to make it easier for young people to be at home in church. But that means adults need to be willing to include and talk to young people, but also young people need to be willing not just to stay in their young people groups. And so actually it is quite hard for a young person to go up to an adult they don't know and start a conversation. In smaller churches, you know, it's a little bit easier because everyone knows each other, but if your church is sort of over 100, you know, it is weird to go up to an adult and say, hi, I'm Alex, I'm in the youth group. So we need to create opportunities and environments where that's not weird, because we're all related. And I think then you get adults that are behind it, and because young people need to get out of their comfort zones in the same way adults need to get out of theirs. And church leaders need to model it, you know, and one of the ways they can model it is by getting young people in roles right across the board, you know, whether that's leading preaching, planning events, PCC, church council, hospitality, welcome. You know, some of the young people I know are the best welcomers to make people feel at home like they've ever seen, you know. Yeah.
Right. This is Ben coming to you about 2 weeks after we recorded this podcast, after which we have changed the entire schedule for Refueled.
Woo!
So the 5-minute segment that was meant to go right here is now completely irrelevant.
Yay!
So instead, me and Katherine are now going to talk through it with you really quickly now, and then we'll get back to talking with Mike and Alex, and also Katherine.
So we're still going to have our morning session and our evening worship sessions with 2 talks now, hopefully, as a bit of a bite and a bit of a send you off for the day, which will be pretty good. We're going to have our worship seminar and our working with young people seminars in the morning, as well as prayer and preaching from Hayley and Mike. And then in the afternoon, we're going to have a Fighting for a Cause seminar by Chuma from Tear Fund, joint with Sharing My Faith in School by Jeremy and Helena from STEP. And then the later of the sessions, we're going to have one from James Manning about how do we put God back on his throne in our lives. And it's about idolising worship. And then Listening to When God Says No by Naomi Allen. And they're all going to be pretty cool.
Wow, what a fun and informative day that sounds like.
Loving the enthusiasm.
I sure can't wait to go myself. I think everyone listening should get tickets right now.
Woo!
Before going back and listening to the next bit of the podcast, where we'll be rejoined by Mike and Alex. Thanks.
So, jumping forward 6 months after the conference, what would be a win for you? What would it have done?
It would just encourage more people to get involved in their churches, but also to stay in their churches, because I think a lot of our young people will just follow where other young people go without. And for instance, I know, sorry Ben, that in our church we were like, there is no way that we can stay here. It's just not for us. There's nothing we can do to help.
Me and Katherine were the entire youth group.
And the kids.
Yes.
We were both. So we now go to every church in Albans, but for people to stay in their church and actually to have faith in it, that they can be used in their church, that would be key. And also to be allowed to help in their church, that would be amazing.
So can I be then a little bit challenged as well? So we've got to move as adults, but Alex is younger than Katherine and Ben. How do we encourage the young people to go to church as well as youth group? Now I know that's a big ask, because 10 o'clock in the morning, Sunday morning, you might not want to do that, but also, evening, well, we've all got lots of commitments in this part of the world, haven't we? We need to pick. But I think one of the things I'd love to say to youth groups is have a great youth group. That's really important. But actually, being in church, actually, that is the way you can really affect change. How do we encourage, nudge, bribe,
blackmail,
tell? What is the path forward to say to get them in a Sunday morning act of worship or Sunday evening before youth group?
Definitely among teenagers, Sunday evening is like what we're going to go to.
Yeah.
Because it's just naturally what we're more inclined to.
Because in your church, it's just before your youth group, isn't it? So
yeah. I think it's more the atmosphere, because I think we're like the youth are already getting more involved in worship and preaching, but it's very much a British atmosphere of like a bit too polite. So everyone doesn't sit very close to each other.
Right.
We're all scattered over the church. Worship is very, very quiet.
Right.
So I think, the atmosphere needs to be changed. And I think we're definitely going through a season, especially in my youth group, we're going through a season of like big change. And I feel like everyone is starting to, start putting forward ideas a bit more. So I'm starting to see loads and loads of my friends like stepping up and being like, I want to change this, and they'll talk to members of like higher up in the church, like church wardens and the vicar, about changing stuff.
Brilliant.
And obviously it's yet to be put in practice, but I think it's a
start.
Yeah.
So do you want to hear? I've got a pet peeve at the moment, and it's not young people, it's adults. So I've been to preach away at 2 churches recently, and my own church does this. The front 2 rows are empty. And do you know why it frustrates me? Because if you go to a gig, everyone's fighting to be in the front row. I remember, showing my age now, I fought to be in the pit at Bon Jovi at Wembley Stadium.
That's awful.
Bon Jovi's not awful.
Bon Jovi.
Man, I'm telling you now. But I remember the pit was where life was. You knew you were almost anticipation. And then, or even at a football game, you want to be in the sideline. And I'd love to know how do we. It's probably atmosphere, like you said, so that actually I want to be here anticipatory. in anticipation, but I want to be here, I want to be front row, I'm expectant. Does that just never happen in church, or?
I had a brainwave about this.
Hit me with it.
So, I think we just remove the first few rows and put in like bean bags, because I remember Joe Moody came over recently, and there were no chairs, or there were chairs just around the edge, like one row,
right,
in a semicircle for like old people to sit on. But otherwise, everyone else sat on bean bags on the floor. And then we were moving about, and so many more people were like dancing and running around and chatting, and it instantly changed that idea of like hostility and being restricted.
I do like the moving around. Even though I'm not massively expressing worship, the idea of getting up and just going for a bit of a walk is to have a freedom. I think it's creating that space that's free, isn't it? I've just noticed lately the front row is empty in places, and I just want to know. It sort of annoys me a little bit.
There's I think I wrote this on a blog once, of a lot of people attend church as if they're gonna take a register at the start, like I've got to get my attendance in for church. Yeah. I don't really feel like going this week, but if I don't go, people will notice, and then I'll be in trouble. And I think there seems to be that attitude just generally across the church. And what we're saying is, like, we really want people to be going and saying, actually, I'm going to beat everyone else to church. I'm going to be there at the front. Like,
yeah.
I want to be the person who's right there at the front. I'm going to get there 10 minutes early, rather than scrape in on time just so everyone knows I'm here.
And that will snowball, won't it? I think it's the sort of thing is if you get a bunch of people doing it. So there you are. If you listen to this podcast Sunday morning, get there early, front row. I'll tell you what, as a general encouragement, it'll encourage whoever's leading or preaching, because there's nothing worse as somebody preaches a bit to look out and the first person you're seeing is 3 rows back. It is a bit weird. Whereas if someone was to front row, almost leaning forward with that expectancy, that's an encouragement, because we're meeting God, for Pete's sake. Why are we not leaning forward, going, okay, I'm here, ready for it, bring it on?
Well, great. I think that is a great point to end on. Do you want to plug for your event one more time?
What's our event again?
So 30th of March 2019 from 9 to 7:30 PM. Get tickets on Eventbrite, all free, and it'd be great to see you there.
It's going to change the face of the church.
And there's free food.
And free food and pizza. Whoop.
Cool. Mike, do you want to play us out with our classic jingle?
And is Alex going to beatbox again? What's Catherine doing?
What am I doing?
Baseline.
Baseline.
Harmony.
Catherine doesn't know what baseline is.
Yeah, what's a baseline?
I can do that. Yeah.
It's 267 podcast.
We're not ready.
Oh, come on.
Alex,
I
start.
start first, so you know, like the beat. Okay.
Rhythm. Beat.
It's
267 podcast. That didn't work as well at all. It's the 267 podcast in the afternoon.
Doom.
That's awful. It's so
Doom.
bad.
Okay, bye guys. Thanks for listening.